of H2S. Hydrogen sulfide exists in several places in nature and can occur anywhere element sulfur comes into contact with organic materials, especially at high temperature. The gas is present in volcanic gases, natural gas, and some well water and hot springs. Small amounts of H2S result from rotten eggs and flatulence, recognizable by the characteristic odor, though not enough to be toxic or trip alarms. The gas is a product of microbes breaking down organic matter in places with little or no air, such as swamps and sewers, or eggs and intestines. Industrial sources of H2S. Like hydrogen sulfide, oil and gas are also created by the breakdown of organic materials, and the two are often found together. As a result, hydrogen sulfide can be present at sites during extraction of natural resources. The refinement of petroleum can also produce hydrogen sulfide when hydrogen is used to remove sulfur from petroleum. Coke ovens, paper mills that use the sulfate method, and tanneries are also areas where hydrogen sulfide is created. Where is hydrogen sulfide found? A number of areas have been identified as places where the gas can be found, but pockets of the gas can occur anywhere. However, there are several industries and workplaces where the toxic gas is reported most frequently. These areas are indicated by the tables to the right. Hydrogen sulfide can ignite between concentrations of 4.3% and 46% volume in air if there is a source of ignition, such as a flame or spark. At 500 degrees Fahrenheit, the gas will ignite without an ignition source. When H2S burns, it produces a blue flame and forms sulfur dioxide. When further oxidized in the atmosphere, sulfur dioxide can form sulfuric acid, resulting in acid rain. History and uses of H2S. One wouldn't expect such a dangerous gas to be helpful in many ways, but the body does manufacture small amounts of hydrogen sulfide for a variety of biological functions, including digestion and memory formation. As a result, the body is usually able to detoxify itself from low concentrations of the gas fairly quickly. On the other hand, hydrogen sulfide from volcanoes and anaerobic respiration has been implicated as a contributor in several of the mass extinctions of Earth's early history. During the First World War, Britain used hydrogen sulfide as a chemical agent. If nothing else, these examples should serve as added proof of the deadly nature of hydrogen sulfide. Or H2S, is a highly toxic and flammable gas that forms as a result of microbes breaking down organic material in areas with little or no oxygen. The gas can often be found in swamps and sewers, as well as a variety of other industries and work areas. It is often present with natural resource deposits and can be released during the extraction and refinement process. The gas is heavier than air and can collect in poorly ventilated or low-lying areas, creating extremely high and therefore hazardous concentrations of the gas. The gas was used as a chemical weapon in the First World War and has been implicated as a contributor in several of the mass extinctions in Earth's history. Section Objectives. During this lesson, we will discuss the following topics: natural defenses against H2S, exposure limits, symptoms and effects of H2S exposure, short and long-term effects, and additional hazards. Introduction. Hydrogen sulfide is a gas that can cause minor irritation in low concentrations, but in higher concentrations, it can cause severe respiratory problems with as little as a single breath. It is important to understand the hazards of exposure, not just to comprehend the dangers of working around hydrogen sulfide, but also to understand the need to take protective measures when working in areas where hydrogen sulfide may be present. The body's natural defense. Because hydrogen sulfide occurs naturally in nature and is used in some biological functions, it is a byproduct of digestion. The body has developed enzymes that are able to reduce the levels of the poisonous gas. Symptoms of exposure to low levels of the gas, which include eye irritation, sore throat, nausea, dizziness, shortness of breath, and fluid in the lungs, usually disappear in a few weeks as the body detoxifies itself. This is different from exposure to something like radiation, which can cause cancer that the body may not remove on its own. Threshold limit value. The threshold limit value is the maximum exposure to a time-weighted average concentration of hydrogen sulfide. This value is the average concentration to which a worker can safely expose themselves over the course of a 40-hour workweek. The American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists, ACGIH, have stated that a time-weighted average concentration of 10 parts per million ppm per workday over the course of a 40-hour workweek is the maximum safe exposure. They also recommend a short-term exposure limit, STEL, of 15 ppm over 15 minutes. Exposures to higher concentrations or similar exposures over longer periods of time could be dangerous. Even though the body is capable of removing hydrogen sulfide, the detoxification process is slow and easily overwhelmed, meaning low concentrations of the gas and long exposure periods are still dangerous. Concentrations of less than 10 ppm are the upper limit of human exposure over an 8-hour period before adverse effects begin to appear. 5 minutes of exposure to a concentration of 800 ppm is considered a minimum lethal dose for humans, though the ACGIH considers an exposure of 300 ppm immediately dangerous to life and health, IDLH. Concentrations over 1,000 ppm cause immediate collapse with loss of respiratory function after a single breath. The toxic effects of hydrogen sulfide depend largely on the concentration of the gas, though long exposure can make minor symptoms much worse. Below is a list of symptoms and effects related to the concentration of the gas, though the concentration can vary from person to person. The effects of exposure to hydrogen sulfide are not considered cumulative, meaning a 6 ppm exposure from Monday will not be added to a 6 ppm exposure from Tuesday for a total of 12 ppm. This doesn't mean that it's okay to expose yourself to low levels of hydrogen sulfide repeatedly or for long periods of time. As we will discuss later, repeated exposures can increase one's sensitivity to the gas. Short-term effects. Short-term exposure to relatively low concentrations, 10 to 100 ppm, can result in mild eye and throat irritation, headaches, and nausea. In addition to more serious eye and throat irritation, headaches, and nausea, concentrations of 100 to 400 ppm can cause disorientation and upset stomach. Brief exposures above 500 ppm can result in respiratory arrest and loss of consciousness. Long-term effects. Long-term effects are usually the result of hydrogen sulfide accumulating in the body over the course of the day. As stated before, some short-term effects can be made worse if you remain in an environment with hydrogen sulfide for long periods. Whereas short-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide concentrations in the range of 10 to 100 ppm cause mild eye irritation, long-term exposure can cause eye damage. Between 500 and 700 ppm, respiratory arrest can occur, leaving you unable to breathe, though it may take minutes or hours to develop. If a victim is not resuscitated in 3 to 6 minutes, they may die or suffer permanent brain damage. Tolerance. Some factors can make people more susceptible to the effects of hydrogen sulfide, which can lead to showing symptoms of exposure at lower than normal concentrations. These factors include previous exposure to hydrogen sulfide, use of alcohol or narcotics, use of certain prescription medications, health problems involving the respiratory, circulatory, or nervous systems, and personal biochemistry. Medical evaluations should be conducted on workers who may be exposed to hydrogen sulfide prior to working in potentially hazardous areas. Additional hazards. Hydrogen sulfide is not only toxic to the human body, but corrosive to metals such as iron, copper, and silver as well. Since most equipment used in drilling, production, and refinement is composed of steel, the presence of hydrogen sulfide can create operational safety problems. Hydrogen sulfide can cause sulfide stress cracking, which can occur rapidly and without warning, and result in equipment failure or a release of hydrogen sulfide, which could cause unexpected exposure. Your employer should select materials in accordance with the MR0175/ISO 15156 criteria for H2S service or treat drilling fluids to reduce corrosion failure.